record on this.
Hello, 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 everybody. I'm Shelley Stockwell Nicholas, and today's theme is when to say when, or when to say not now. This is a show about assertiveness training to celebrate your parameters, your boundaries, your way of being, your way of celebrating life. We have a panel of experts, and they are amazing. Amazing. Well, our first amazing person is none other than Deb Taubenslag. She comes to us from New Jersey, and she is a beautiful human being and a helper of many. And she's an expert on helping special needs children. And I'm sure she had to say when to do something and when not to do something. Deb, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Well, what I wanted to say is this. When I really thought hard, I really was an advocate for my son. But what I realized was that I really needed, I'm going to change the view for a second. Okay, there we go. What I really need to do was to stop being so selfish. And what I mean by that, when my dad was ready to pass, I really couldn't let him go. And he kept on wearing his oxygen mask, and he would rip it off his face. I'm like, Dad, no, you got to keep it on. And I knew he was passing. I knew it was just a couple of hours, but it was really, really hard for me to let him go. And he was getting a little upset with me. And finally, I fell asleep, and that's when he passed. So I realized that I overstepped my boundaries. I didn't listen to his when to say when. He was ready, but I wasn't ready. And I realized that that was a really wrong thing to do. So a year later, my mom was ready to pass to the next dimension. And I remembered how I really had to honor and respect when she was ready to go. It wasn't my time, it was her time, and I couldn't control that. And even though I really wanted to keep her with me, but I recognized she stopped eating. She didn't want to eat. And I knew that she would eat or drink something if I said, please, Mom, please, please, please. But I had to respect her wishes. And she was very glad that I did. So when to say when, to me, was allowing and respecting the people who are ready to go and leave us. And that's what I wanted to say. When to
Cut out just a little bit, Deb.
I did?
At the very end there. So you said with your mom that you really knew how to say when with her at the end, but we missed the last sentence you said.
Well, that was it. It was really respecting that she wanted to go. It wasn't my timing, it was her timing. And I
Yep.
had to respect that. I had to learn when is when, which was her when is when. And
Beautiful.
that's what I wanted to say about
It's
when
so
is
beautiful.
when.
When is when.
Yeah.
So the first I'm going to introduce is our wonderful Mary Beth Hobson. She comes to us from Chicago. Mary Beth, you know all about when is when because you too have dealt with special needs children and to help a lot of people learn how to say yes and no. Mary Beth.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you, Deb, because instead of being, I want to start being more selfish because I just seem to give all my energy and time and make commitments, but hardly ever do I make a commitment to myself for rest, for relaxation, for just doing things that I enjoy. So that's my boundaries, that I need to protect my boundaries and start saying, not now, not never, but just not now on certain things, and encourage my son to be more independent and do more things for himself. And so I just kind of got caught in that web of, Mom, I need help. Okay, honey. So it's like, try and do this for yourself. And then they'll leave a little more few minutes for me to just regenerate my energy and my mind and just self-care. So that
Beautiful.
I have to say about
Yeah. So Mary Beth, for those who are listening, your son is visually impaired, is that right?
he's blind.
And he's been blind for how long?
He had a degenerative eye disease, so he could see as a child, but as he got older, his vision diminished. And now it's just a little vision.
Right. So he needs to be self-sufficient. You're giving him a gift in a way.
Oh, yes, I do
Yeah,
know. I
that's
do.
beautiful.
And my other
Beautiful.
son who's blind, well,
Yes.
who's with me, has more issues than just being blind.
Yes. You're challenged.
He's got several more issues to deal with. So my older son, who's just blind, he worked at a blind school and he taught cane travel. So the white canes that they use, they have to be taught how to use them when they tap, tap, tap. We thinking, oh, they're just tapping. They're not just tapping. They're listening for different sounds of like the grass or a concrete or what substance that they are tapping. And he
Wonderful.
got that. And he said,
Wow.
Mom, these people come to me and they can't even tie their shoes because
Isn't that
families have coddled them their entire life. And these are early 20s.
so? This is when to say when to a disabled
When?
person.
Right. So, and I told him, see how fortunate you are to have a mom like me, and how far you've come on your own. So
Beautiful.
I'm grateful, and I'm sure he's grateful that things worked out the way they did.
Well, you're a perfect example of when to say when. Okay, another perfect example of when to say when is Spencer Humm. He comes to us from Florida. He's an amazing guy who knows how to close a deal. He knows how to have them say yes or no to a deal, and hopefully yes when he is selling a service of some sort. He's also an entertainer, so he gets the audience to laugh right in the right places or maybe the wrong places. Spencer Humm, talk to us.
What do you want me to talk about, Shelley?
When to say when.
When to say when? You know, one of the things that I'm deeply engaged with is thinking about your values. And one of the exercises I lead groups through is I ask them to tell me the story of one of their happiest moments. And which is actually a great thing to do as a facilitator, get people to talk about the thing that gives them great joy. Um, and in hearing the stories, and of course, I mean, and it's a pleasure to hear the stories as well, because they're very interesting and just people light up when they're telling them, and you hear all kinds of great experiences, and you can't help but get affected positively by those stories as well. And at the end of the story, I will ask, what about that experience? What were the elements of that that made you happy? And people will talk to me about, well, I liked connecting with people, or, because it was, it was the story of bicycling to South America or something. So then adventure was a big part of it, uncertainty, adventure, variety, those types of things that kind of cluster together. And you can create your own labels for it. Or perhaps they tell me the story of, when they met their partner, and there is love in that story. Love, also connection, right? Um, and sometimes people will tell me a story of something, oh, when I wrote my book, it was very challenging and I was so rewarding at the end. So challenge is the value that's revealed there. And so challenge, connection, adventure, love, these are the things that fulfill us. And when considering where to spend your time, my advice is to look at your life and start to look at it in terms of how does it fulfill your values? And again, think of your happiest moments, tell it to a friend. That's the best way to do it, is to tell it to somebody rather than to sit and make this between yourself and a spiral bound notebook. Tell someone these stories of your happiest moment. They'll tell you a story back, then that'll remind you of a story that made you happy. And as you have this exchange, make those notes and write down those elements that made you happy. And those are your values. Those are the things that you like. They're at least the things you move towards, the carrots of your life. And in considering how to spend your time, but first, in just creating new experiences for yourself. What do I want to do next from zero, from scratch? And look at that list of values. And how could you pick activities that engage you with those values? Love, connection, adventure, challenge, whatever the things that light you up, contribution, all those things, helping someone in need, whatever those elements are for you. How can you choose those experiences? And then when new opportunities come to you, I invite you to exercise courage in asking yourself courageously, and it takes some courage. Does this align with the things that fulfill me, that put me in my power, that put me in the space where I am the best contributor to the world that I can be, because I'm in alignment with those things that light me up, those things that fulfill me and that create wins and happiness for me. And when someone asks you to do something that does not align with those things, you have a few choices. You can say, well, could we do that differently? Could I bring a friend in so that this could be a collaboration, if collaboration is one of your values? Could I often ask myself, how could I do this thing right now with even more love? Right? To bring that value into it. So you can change the idea and say, evolve it to make the opportunity something that does align with the things that make you happy. Or you can take the courage to say no. And it doesn't have to be, and someone just said, Mary Beth just said it very well, maybe not no forever, but no for now, right? Or no until we can evolve this into a way that is going to work for me. And I think also in saying no, you can exercise compassion. You can I understand this is hard for you. This is a goal that you're passionate about achieving. This is a challenge you're passionate about overcoming. I understand what this means to you in your life, and I can be there for you in lots of different ways. But I don't think this really works for me in terms of the way this opportunity is being offered, and being comfortable with saying no. And I think that not only will you stay out of situations that aren't going to make you happy, fulfilled, powerful, and really be able to give your gift to the world. You'll also find, I think you're asking the universe to evolve around you and for you, which is our birthright. And so in making that simple request of no, not now, right? And saying, drawing that line and saying no, you're really asking the universe, I'd like maybe something better. And when that thing that's better comes, I think you'll be glad that you drew that line. So
Very,
that's my advice.
very good advice, Spencer. That was excellent advice. Wow. And by the way, your exercise of sharing what you love and why you loved it is so powerful. I just did that today with my friend. The next person I want to introduce is a wonderful person. His name is Grant Murrell. He comes to us from sunny London. Is it sunny today, Grant? Anyway,
No, it's been
when
horribly rainy and windy today. It's been nice weather. Recently, it's been nice weather, but today it's been horrible. Yeah.
well, how can you help people know when to say when and when to say not now?
Great question. Strange enough. So how do you know? should know why you're doing anything in life. It must be about nothing to think. It's saying visibility. It is not deemed safe below that visibility to land at that airfield. That's why sometimes it won't land. It'll have to go to another airfield, which causes delays, but it's safety. There are those parameters. What happens if we had the same parameters in our life? Well, I was speaking at Oxford University this week. And, you know, I was pulled in, I was doing this, and I said that. I said, one thing I will need, my eyesight is not that great. I will need this. And they sent me, you know, some of the scripts and the bios on my phone. And I said, you really think I'm going to do a good job reading that from my phone? That's not going to happen. That needs to be printed off. And I said, so I will need that, and it's fairly large font. And I said, if you want me to do it, I'm very happy to do it, very honored to do it, but I will need to do this. And they are some of my basics of what I need in order to do it. Now, you go along, and after doing all this, and it was fantastic, I spoke there, I was in a mastermind, it was great. I've now been invited to speak at another great university. And I had to leave early because I had to come back for a meeting. And when I got there, come all the way there, it should be a fairly straightforward meeting. But there's always one, isn't there? The one who would always cause a problem and push it beyond the limits when it doesn't need to. And if anyone has ever upset me, you know, I'm a little bit like an elephant, that I kind of store up information. Well, this person went into a tyrant to try to make a spectacle of myself and others. Well, that was enough. That was beyond the limit. So I politely stopped them and told them to listen and gave them the barrage. And they got it. And they really got it, because there is the boundary. I'm a very accommodating person, pretty easygoing, and I will accommodate people, and even against what I think. And sometimes go, okay, we'll give that a try. We do your way. And I try to be very, very nice to people. But
What did you say to them, Ron? What did you say to stop them?
Now listen, and listen good, because I'm going to tell you some things that other people won't tell you. And I just tell them straight. And I said, hey, this is not personal. This is a fact. And I can back it up. And there you are. And I gave it to them. And they don't normally like it because they're used to giving. But I tell them. And normally that does the trick. And it does. And I'm happy to be unpopular if need be. But it made me more popular because I was saying what other people thought. And this has been happening for a long time, and it was going to happen. But I'm very clear and very direct with people, and I like that straight communication. I will always try to help people, but I think to help you realize when to say when is the point is, when are you willing to bend to accommodate someone else for the greater good of the entire group? But when does that start depleting against you giving your best performance?
Yeah,
that's
really important.
That's when it's a time to say when for me.
Beautiful.
And as you can say, you can always politely say and say, well, you know, I agree with that idea and I like that, but I think it needs
to be that's enough.
But so everybody has their parameters of when to say it. And I always try to do it with love and respect, with a greater outcome. And intention is a big thing for me. As long as it's the best intention for the group, then I feel validated to say it.
Well said. I think some people have intention deficit disorder.
They do. So that's my view on that. And back to you, Shelley.
Well done, Grant. Okay, the next person I'm going to introduce is Linda Herrick. She comes to us from Tennessee. And Linda, what do you think about when to say when, or when to say enough?
I think it's so important to know when to say when. There's really a tipping point with everything, yes? A lovely glass of wine in the evening might help you unwind. 2 bottles in, not so much. This especially is true with alcohol. There used to be all kinds of commercials and stuff. Know when to say when. It's not just alcohol. It may be anything in your life, you know, that you are overboard. You're way over the line of moderation. It could be gathering things, possessions, I told a story before about this beautiful house in a lovely neighborhood, and they had these little gnomes in front and little statuaries, and then there was more, and then there was more, and then there was more. And every time I drove by this house, I'd say to myself, know when to say when. The house next door to this one was up for sale, and it took forever for them to sell their house. And I think I know why. No one wanted to move into someone who didn't know when to say when. That's even people being, perhaps trying to sell you something, or if you're trying to share something with someone else or sell something to someone else, know when to say when. If you're sitting on their chest, putting lipstick on them, saying, no, it's a great shade, you've gone too far. That's back up a bit. That's beyond know when to say when. And so I think it's really important to do a lot of things in moderation. And it's a good time to just stop and think to yourself, where in my life do I have issues knowing when to say when? When I moved to Tennessee from Chicagoland area several years ago, I released 1,000 books to the universe. Okay, now that was okay because they're books, but perhaps that was a little bit over the line. I had a lot of books. You probably have a lot of something. A cookie's great, 4 boxes in, not so much. So you just have to know when to say when for your own boundaries and also for other people. And you need to let other people know when to say when if it's affecting you directly, as Grant had mentioned. So that's all I need to say about this. Is it's important to know when to say when. Here's my little sign today says, Alexa, make tacos. That's great, but know how many tacos. Know when to stop with the tequila, with the tacos, and all of that. So that's all I got today.
Well done, Linda. That was really great. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when
Absolutely.
to when to run like crazy. Hey, Johnny Warhank, you're an expert on these kinds of things. I mean, you were on the front lines of Vietnam in a weird situation that you found yourself. Wow. Talking about knowing when to say when. Talk to us, John Warhank, about that.
When to say when is really important, in my opinion, because many, many, many a times I've gone to lectures and they go on and on and on and never say anything. And at the end of the lecture, you're sitting there going, what? Why did I spend this last hour here? So I think it's important that you have your structure and then you know when to shut up and sit down. And I think that's really important because, like I said, in lectures, and many of you have gone through the same thing, I'm sure, where you sit there and listen for an hour and then, what did they say? And I remember Shelley and I both discussed a particular gentleman who we listened to. And after 2 days, we went, what did he talk about for 2 days? And I think you remember that, Shelley.
Yes, I do.
And it's really sad because some of these quote unquote experts don't know when to say when. I wanted to switch a little bit from that into an artist. When is an art piece done?
Good
you
question.
can always put one more stroke of paint, one more piece of silver. You can always add something, but at some point you need to say enough. And I think that's what sets aside many of the famous artists, is they know when to stop. They know when their piece is completed. And so, ability, in my opinion, but a public speaker is an artist in a different way. And so that, what I was talking about a minute ago, you need to have that same intention that same idea that you know when to stop. So I think that's important, that no matter what it is, what do they say in sales? The last one to talk wins or loses, depends
Or lose.
upon. You need to be careful of what you say when and how you say it. So I think it's important that we know ourselves, whatever we're doing, when to say when. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, Brenda Rhodes and I are writing a book together on great relationships. And one of the things that we've discovered, and I'm sure Brenda has a lot to say about this, is we use a lot of words that are not necessary. And then we have to cut them out of our book because they're dead wood. So I don't know if that's what Brenda wants to talk about, but Brenda Rhodes from Pennsylvania, what do you want to say about when to say when?
I think I'm going to use my earlier client. It's fairly interesting because she kept relaying that, oh, I'm always taking care of this and I can't have time. And these people come, you know, my family comes and they eat my food and this and that. And it basically is that. When do you say when? What is your worth? I think that's really what it's down to, you know, in that aspect is how much do you value yourself to create those boundaries? And if somebody is calling you up and saying, hey, I need your help, I need your help, I need you to watch my daughter or whatever, you know, you have to find certain things and ask yourself, these 3 questions are what I use. So I'll ask myself, is this good? Is this right? And is this convenient? Because it may be good and right, but it may not be convenient. I might be in the middle of a session. I can't just run out and grab my granddaughter. You can always give the opportunity to say, I can't do that right now, but I would be happy to help you a little later on. Or perhaps it's just not a good thing. Maybe it's a toxic situation that is not good for you. And, you know, you might have plans, so it's not convenient. So you need to find those balances. And sometimes we get caught up with what we believe we should do. I heard a lot of shoulds today in my office. What I should do, or I should do this, or I should do that, or they think I should, or whatever. You know, if you're not sure, there's a real easy way to test that. Do the swallow test. Ask yourself, should I go, or is it right for me to go and break my plans with my friend because my daughter needs her daughter to be watched? Swallow that. Take a swallow. If it's easy, then it is the right thing for you. If it's hard to swallow, then that's your body's telling you, it's giving you a message. That's not the best thing for you. And so that's where you have to come into that, when to say yes, when to say no. You know, if you are drained, you have to start looking at that. Why am I drained? Am I saying yes to when to say when I should be saying no to when? You know, so really find that balance and fine tune. And again, those 3 questions: is this right? Is this good? And is this convenient? And if they all line up, go for it. If not, you got to take care of yourself and you are worth it. And that's the bottom line. Most people are believing they're being selfish because that's what they're brought up to. You're being selfish if you don't do this for me. You're being selfish if you don't go and help. And then they guilt themselves saying that they're being selfish if they don't do what is right and good for them. So really check in with yourself. Can you swallow it? Thanks, Shelley.
You're welcome. That was well said. Wow. Miss Polly Foskaris, hypnotist extraordinaire, and actually an entrepreneur in many arenas, and a wonderful person who helps public causes like the fire department, the police department. Polly, when to say when?
Hi, everyone. Okay. So when to say when. It's really important to make sure what you're doing is good for you and not for the benefit of somebody else. Sometimes we may overly do it because we think it's the right thing to do, and then we've crossed our boundaries of giving up too much time, too much of ourselves, or maybe we speak up for something and it's enough is enough. So when to say when, expressing yourself to what you want to say, but maybe you're overly telling your kids, you need to clean your room. And they're like, okay, here goes mom again. When to say when. Sometimes it's good just to put a piece of paper on the wall and say, I'd like you to clean your room, this and that, and I'm done. I won't tell you again, because they know this repetition, and then you're just gonna be a nagging person. And then people get tired of you being a nagging person, and you're like, I don't want to say it again, but I notice. But if it doesn't feel right, then you don't need to say it. And you need to know in your gut, in your heart, in your mind, how does it feel? Does it feel right what you're saying or what you're doing? Maybe some people are students for life, and because they just want to learn and learn. And well, when do you say when? When are you going to accomplish or finish what you want to finish? Because everything just looks so wonderful and people just keep wanting to do it. And then they look back and say, I didn't ever take a vacation. I've just been a full-time student or full-time working. And so I think you need to really know when to say when for yourself and for others, because sometimes if someone's tired and you're just used to venting to them, you're not respecting their boundaries, and people call up someone and may just ramble on without saying, hey, how are you? And listening to that person, they may have had a really bad day, and we are just going on about our thing without ever even stopping to take a breath and look back to see, should we even speak right now to this person, because we've crossed their boundaries. So we need to say when is really take a step back, reflect, listen to yourself. Is it the right time? Or maybe I should wait, or maybe not take a class this semester, take a vacation, travel, whatever you need to do just to really take in where you are, with this person or in your work or your vacation, whatever you need to do, but learn to say when to say when, what feels right. So that's all I have to say. Everyone said so many beautiful things that they've all been shared already. So thank you.
Thank you, Polly. So all of you out there, I'd like you to do this with me. Take a deep breath and imagine in your brain is a hunger level. And that hunger level tells you when you need fuel, when you need real fuel. I mean, not junk food. Really, you need fuel. You need something that gives you nourishment. And set that hunger level for accurate consumption. In other words, imagine you're setting the dial to I only eat when I need fuel, and I stop when I'm fueled. If you reset your hunger level, then you know when to say enough food and you push your plate away. And rather than leaving something in your stomach, you leave it on the plate. You see, a lot of you were trained to finish everything on your plate because somebody was starving somewhere. So now we're learning another technique. Either put less on your plate, eat a smaller on a smaller plate, or just simply say enough, enough, and push the plate away. Or if you're in a restaurant, ask to take the rest home with you. Your hunger level is actually in your brain, it's kind of regulated by the vagal nerve. So reset it now to only eat when you need fuel, and to stop eating when you're fueled, and you won't be fuelish anymore. And you'll probably lose some weight feeling great about yourself. So come on back, nice stretch, palms above your head, saying, I am the best version of me. I am the best version of me. And give yourself a big hug, because you so deserve it. And thank you for being with us today on Free Hypnosis IHF. And know when to say when and when to say enough. Until the next time we see you, I'm Shelley Stockwell Nicholas, and we love you. We'll see you soon on Free Hypnosis IHF. Bye for now.